It's time now for County-Wide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Join Paul David and Brad Miller as they talk with our community's leaders, newsmakers, and people in the know. You'll hear about the hot topics that affect all our lives here in Yavapai County. And now, here's today's County-Wide.
Good day, everybody. Welcome to the program. Brad Miller with you, and we're happy to welcome into studio a guest who will probably be very, very familiar with a lot of folks, especially in the Sedona area, but throughout the Verde Valley, and a voice that'll be recognized by those of you who were with us just last week, talking fire safety. Gary Johnson is the fire marshal with the Sedona Fire District. Hello, sir.
Hey, I'm glad to be here.
Always good to have you across the table from us.
Yeah, it was a great time. It was, really nice this morning coming down.
I know. Isn't it a great time of year?
Yes, a little bit of moisture. Sounds like maybe a little bit of rain, but even so, a little bit of moisture.
We'll hope for that.
I think fall's here.
I think so. And with that, Gary brings us some very important issues and topics as we chatted on the radio stations last week. A little bit about fire safety. Statistically speaking, in the fall, we see more incidents of home accidents and certainly fires. Gary's going to tell us why that is. And most importantly, talk about ways you can prevent through the holiday season, through the cold and winter season, prevent these kinds of problems in your home. So let's just get right to it, sir. I know you've got, look at you. You're like, you got a prop comic here.
You bet. And here's
but very serious business.
And here's my little pet peeve, as I call it. And these are the things when I go and I talk to the public and I interact with them. There's a couple of things that I bring up every time to constantly reinforce it. And one of them is my example here of a house number. This is a number of 80, and this is just an example.
Right.
But the real question is, do I know where you live? So, Brad, if 2 o'clock in the morning, if you called for help and we came down the street, are we going to find your house number? Is it going to be posted where the crews are going to be able to see it from the street?
Everybody thinks, well, my house will be on fire. I'm the one burning. But that's not really the case. In the middle of the night, it could be any kind of emergency inside that you're unaware of until you get in there.
And that's correct, because when you think about it, 85% of our calls are non-fire related.
Wow.
Where we're not working, going towards a fire. So it could be an EMS call. It could be something else going on. And a lot of folks say, but I got my porch light on. Well, how many of us come home at 3 o'clock in the morning and notice that a lot of porch lights are on?
Sure.
So what I really ask everybody to do is that, and the example I give is when we were remodeling our house, when the wife said, you know what, when there was no kitchen appliances available, she wasn't going to cook. So that makes sense, So I said, okay. So the pizza guy and us got on a first-name basis until one day a new pizza guy came and he couldn't find my house. And what had happened is my house numbers had disappeared because when I posted them, I also had a plant nearby.
Okay.
That vegetation grew up. All of a sudden, couldn't see the number. Obviously, I know where I live.
Right.
I mean, I can probably pull in my driveway blindfold.
Right.
But the point is that someone who wasn't used to going to your house had difficulty finding it.
Let me ask you about that, because I think a lot of us, I did until we chatted about it on a previous visit, but for our listeners' sake, I think a lot of folks, we think about GPS technology and things like that today that, well, you've got a map and there's a little screen that lights up and shows you where I live as soon as I dial 911. And I'll bet you're going to tell me that's not quite right.
Well, in a way, we get all this information, and that's great, because now we know where we're going. But when we go and sit by that house and we look, is this number 80?
Sure.
Or is that number 80?
Right.
So if we can see those numbers, it allows the crews there to get much more quickly. I can still recall, well, you'll hear it, where the engine captain will call back to the alarm room and say, I can't find 80.
Yeah.
All right? Or I can't find that number. And that takes time. And time is our biggest culprit. Because remember, if someone's not breathing, if you have a medical emergency, we want to get to you as quick as we can. The last thing we want to do is pull up in the long driveway and find out that we're at the wrong house.
You've got these, I think, are the reflective.
These are the reflective.
Are those probably among the better ways to mark your home?
I would. I mean, have them reflective, or if they're not going to be reflective, have them where if you're going to leave your porch light on night, or when there's an event, you're going to put your porch light on, or a light that will light it up.
They're illuminated.
And the other thing is to think about your house just as you're pulling in. Some of us have short driveways. My driveway is only about two car longs, whereas some people have long driveways. So it may be posted at the house. Can I see it from the street?
Gotcha.
A lot of people tell me it's on the mailbox. My mailbox is not on the same street that I live on.
You don't want the guys, as a homeowner, you don't want the guys to have the firemen and EMTs looking for this thing.
Correct. So
you want it.
Yep. And so just take a few minutes when you go home tonight. Just drive up when you pull up and go, can I see it? It may even help your neighbor, because if I'm going down and I'm looking for 80 and they're 60, then I know 80 is just up the street a bit.
Sure.
And it can make a difference. If there's any confusion, you can always call your fire department and they will help you determine, that correct address. Now, the fire department doesn't address, it's a county or city responsibility. But we're more than welcome. I get involved a lot. I go to the city, making sure that, you know, where we're at to be. Because every now and then some of the addresses aren't right, somehow got out of sequence, and we just want to make sure the key is we just want to be able to find you.
You bet.
So this is probably the best way you can help us.
And if you're not worried about the fire guys, do it for the pizza guy.
There you go.
Right,
I mean,
so
pizza's good.
Mark your house so people, you guys know how to find you. It's simple as that.
The other thing to think about is, in talking on the same light, is that, you know, when I was growing up, Ma Bell, Pacific Bell, provided the phones, gave you that little number, put it on the phone.
Sure.
You knew where you were and everything. You don't get that today. Many of us don't even have home phones anymore, in the sense we use our cell phones. So make sure that when you're at the home that you understand, you know, in case you're not the one making the phone call.
Right. So
maybe by the phone, on top of a note or something, it just gives the address and the phone number. You know, it could very well make a difference, because you could be visiting somebody, and then you'd be able to give them the address.
Yeah.
The other thing is if there is an event, please try and use your home phone, if at all possible, instead of your cell phone. And the reason for that is that in the 911 center, when the phone you dial, when it comes in, it gives us a site address. So like, for example, it comes right in, it'll have the name, the site address of the phone. So we have that information on the screen, and the dispatcher will verify that up front with you.
Okay.
But when we use a cell phone, something like this, what happens is that the address we initially get is the tower that you connected to.
Okay.
Now, yes, we can use GPS, and we can get back to you to a certain degree, but it's not as accurate.
And again, it takes time.
And it takes time, okay? So just be prepared. If you're traveling between Sedona and Cottonwood, or Cottonwood and Camp Verde, just kind of pay attention to your surroundings, so that if you have to call, you have a pretty good idea where you are.
Gotcha.
That helps give direction, you or the person you're calling for.
And if you're in a home or a business, I suppose, or wherever, try to use the landline.
If you can use the landline. If you can't, use the cell phone. If there's a fire, people say, well, there was a fire. If you have a portable phone, take the phone. You'll be surprised how long that phone will work as you get out of the house.
Sure.
Okay. And as we talked last week about the fire safety, just remember, 2 ways out, and have a meeting place so that everybody gets together.
Yeah, that's a critical one. So far, the things you've been talking about are things I bet a lot of us just don't think about.
Right.
And I know that's why you're here today. But that one about, I mean, my kids came home some years ago, and they were smaller, from school, and the Laughs group, I think, had been there and said, we've never practiced getting out of here. And Dad's going, and we don't know where to meet if we get out of here. So listen to the little ones, let them educate you, and boy, what a difference that could make.
You bet. And same thing with the grandparents. If you're a grandparent, when the kids come, just have that. So if an event occurs, they know you're going to the mailbox, you're going to the big tree, you're going here, you're going there. So the kids know, so that when you meet them outside, everybody is together. These are just some little things, and you can make a game of it.
Right.
You know, have some fun.
Gary, let's take a break. We need to go ahead and do that, so we'll break just a tiny bit early here. We'll pause for just a minute. Great advice, important safety tips for the winter and any time from Fire Marshal Gary Johnson, Sedona Fire District. We're back to Countywide right after this.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
I was in junior high the first time I caught my mom using denial. She had to have known her painkillers were missing because I kept stealing them. Her denial was so out of hand.
So she doesn't even know? I'm going out.
It was like I could get away with anything.
You kids have fun.
And that was when I knew. And she was addicted to denial.
Denial is a drug. Get help. The partnership at drugfree.org.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
Now, some action from the courts. Billie Jean King renewing her rivalry with Arthritis. First set, furious volley, and right to the net for a winner. Beautiful forehand there. Arthritis, stunned. And here, match point. Billie Jean with the ace, taking it in straight sets. Afterwards, a jubilant Billie Jean King.
Tennis is a weapon for me with arthritis. There's nothing like it for me to hit a ball, run to the ball, anytime, any court. I'm ready. Let's go.
What's your weapon against arthritis? Find out at fightarthritispain.org.
And back to the program, again, countywide. Brad Miller with you and our guest today, Gary Johnson. Gary's fire marshal with Sedona Fire District, talking about important safety tips. Was I right when I kind of mentioned that this is a rough time of year in terms of accidents go up? We see statistically home fires go up, kitchen fires, things like that.
Yeah, typically during the course of the year, kitchen and cooking fires are the leading cause of fires in homes.
Okay.
And then what happens is as the winter approaches, that kind of transitions and the heating fires become more of an issue.
Sure.
And it's kind of obvious in a way when you think about it, because, you know, look at it. All summer I've been using my air conditioner or my swamp cooler or nothing, you know, when the weather's nice.
Yeah.
Now I'm turning on the heaters.
Right.
Okay, so first thing that you need to make sure is that, was your heater inspected? You know, I would have that done every season, and the reason for that is twofold.
Every season?
I would do it every season.
Every
year. And there's two purposes. Number one, there's a safety issue, but how about efficiency? Remember, you get the technician comes out, he makes sure that it's functioning properly, which is going to save you money in the long run.
Right.
So, you know, you've got two of those things. Remember to change those filters,
right,
which allows that air to fuel. And so that way something gets identified up front when it deals with that. And of course, you know, we're going to start to close our houses up a little bit. You know, we're not going to be outside as much. We're not going to see some of the things that are going on because of that. So you want to make sure. How about during the season, in the sense, you know, during the spring, you've got your fireplace or your wood stove, you're not using it. So what do people have a tendency to do? Move some things a little closer to it.
Right.
This is the time for you to look at that and say, okay, that plant stand, it's made out of wood. I've kind of moved it right next to the fireplace. I'm going to use my fireplace. Look at that and start to move those items away.
Move it back again.
Okay,
yeah.
You know, 18 to 36 inches. Just think about it. And if you're not sure, when you light that for the first time, just feel the heat.
Sure.
You'll be able to see that. So you just need to pull that stuff away a little bit and just use what I call that little bit of common sense. But what happens is we get used to something that's been that way. Whoops, and then we forget to do it.
Sure.
And then unfortunately, hopefully you're home if something happens, but if not, something happens, and then the result can be then we get to come visit. And as I kind of tease some folks sometimes, I go, we don't mind visiting, we just don't want to have to go to work.
That's right.
Right, you know,
that's
because
right.
I'll gladly come do an inspection because that's positive. If I have to come and investigate the fire, that's, you know, that's where we don't want to be. We want to avoid those up front,
right,
okay, when we can do that.
And
so,
a lot of ways to do it. Are most, in your opinion, I don't know if this is even a fair question, but would you argue that most home fires, say, limited to that, are preventable with some of these things you're talking about?
A greater portion of them are preventable. And when you think about it, a lot of it is some of the stuff that you do. I mean, obviously there can be a failure of an appliance, you know, something malfunctions, the heater or so forth.
Sure.
That's why it's beneficial to have it checked and so forth, and eliminate those potential human causes.
Right.
And a good example is we talk about our candle fires.
Yeah.
I mean, candle fires are almost 100% preventable,
right,
because, you know, you want to make sure you take your candle, that you put it somewhere that is safe in the sense that if it was going to be on this table, you need to have a non-combustible dish that's properly going to support the candle.
Right.
You know, and that way if something was to happen, it'll be contained to that. And did you know that in the next 2 months or so, the 5 days, the most 5 popular days for candle fires is coming up. Halloween.
Sure, okay.
Just a day, there's a day, the 23rd, and why it is, I'm not sure, but the 23rd of December, okay? Then, you know, and then, of course, obviously Christmas Eve.
Right.
Christmas Day.
Sure.
New Year's. So, you know, these are all these days that are coming up, and basically what it is people, you know, like the aroma. It's nice. It makes it kind of into the setting, makes it kind of fall, and so forth. But you want to make sure that they're safe. So if you're going to use candles, if you're going to light a candle, and you're going to go there, number one, make sure it's on a safe, non-combustible base. And you know, when you go to the store, the candle goes out.
Right.
So make sure it is out when you leave the house.
Do you have candles in your home?
No.
Not a fair question, and I'm putting you on the spot, but I was curious. We don't either, and we used to.
Right.
But it just, once we got kids, pets, and I just said, phooey. You know, it's not worth the risk.
And if something comes up, an emergency, you lose power, and you're going to use candles, the same rule applies. You know, you don't light a whole bunch of candles,
right,
okay? But light your candles, make sure that they're in something that's non-combustible,
right,
make sure that they're going to be safe.
And when the lights come back on, blow them out.
That's right. And, you know, and the other thing to have is make sure you have a couple flashlights, have some extra batteries, you know, check them before the season, just be prepared. So that's just an example of some of the things that change. And we're so excited, we're so busy with the seasons that sometimes we just don't
Yeah.
Think about it.
Right.
The other item is that a lot of folks are going to want to, save some money by having some portable heat so that they're just heating that area that they're in. Well, that's great, okay? Just make sure that your heater is UL listed, okay? Make sure that the cord that you have is not frayed or damaged in any way.
Sure.
If you read the instructions, I've yet to find one that says use an extension cord. And if you're ever curious about that, plug it in and run it for a little bit, and then just feel the cord.
Yeah.
You'll feel that warmth. Remember, most of these are radiant heaters, which means it's resistance. So you're going to end up having some, that heat is going to build up.
Right.
The other thing is, remember we talked about candles on a non-combustible surface?
Right.
You need to do the same thing with this.
Sure.
Sometimes we'll use one at our house, and what I use is I have a tile that I didn't use. Actually, I used it, but the bottom didn't work right. I was kind of still learning.
Gotcha.
So I saved the tile, and many times I will place this on the tile so that it's not on the carpet or it's not on the wood floor.
Right.
And as a result, it makes it a lot more safe.
Simple little things.
Right. The other thing is think about the distance that you want to have it away. You want to be able to receive the heat, but you don't want to have something so close that it has potential to ignite and then potentially cause a fire.
I know in the wintertime, portable heaters like this, get taken into the bathrooms.
Right.
And that kind of introduces a whole nother potential hazard.
In the bathroom, you got the water.
Yeah.
Okay, that's why in many cases you'll see the switches, the outlets, they're set up so that they'll protect you. So these are things for you to think about. Come up with a little different solution in order to have that within that in that scenario.
Yeah.
And so that, just something for you to think about.
Right.
Okay. And the same token, I brought an extension cord. Notice how light this is as compared to what's on the heater. This isn't going to work.
Yeah.
It'll work in the sense it'll produce. You've got a potential fire hazard. And as always, please don't put them underneath the carpets. Don't watch where they're sitting. Don't let them get under the feet of appliances and so forth. You're going to use more of these this year because why? The season's coming up.
Right.
You're going to put your decorations up and so forth. So just think about it. You can look at the rating and keep it protected. And again, you shouldn't be leaving tons of stuff on when you leave. Obviously, there's the value of paying the bill, but the potential hazard.
Do we get maybe a false sense of security because I think, well, if I do overload this, it'll just pop the breaker. I don't have to worry about it.
That's probably a fair statement.
Yeah.
And the trouble is that the breaker's got to get up to that resistance in order for the breaker to pop.
And what could happen before that?
And what can happen beforehand and before it trips. And so people sometimes have that false sense of security.
You say they're rated.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know. I mean, I think I have an understanding of what that means, but I'm going to tell you right now, I've never looked at the tags that you're looking at for our radio listeners. Gary's got a bunch of props here with him today and is looking at a drop cord or a small, not even a drop cord. I would suggest something for heavier. This is just a smart
extension cord.
Yeah.
You could use something like this to extend, you're going to put some, my wife will be using some of these. This is one of the reasons I borrowed this from her stash because she can put up Christmas lights. She has those little houses. Right. Well, that's fine. You set them up, you make it happen, you plug it in, and something like this will work. And what I mean by rating is the rating of the wire.
Okay.
Okay. So obviously, this cord should not be smaller than this cord.
Okay.
Okay. Something as simple as that.
When you say smaller, physically just looking at it?
Almost physically looking at it.
Yeah.
If you compare these two, and you look at these two, you can see the difference that it's not significant, but it is smaller. And on many of them, it will tell you. You can look on it, and for some of us folks that need a little help, you might have to, get the light and do this a little bit and look back and forth.
Sure.
But it will tell you what the rating. It'll tell you what the rating is.
Now, if I go plug in two of these in, does that double the load on this wire? Does it work that way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it ain't going to take much for something like that, which is going to have a lot of electrical draw.
Right. So you just need
overload that.
So you need to look at that a little bit and use a little bit of common sense.
Again, the common sense.
Common sense, and when in doubt, call and ask.
There you go. And I can call you for that?
You can call, and if we're not, sometimes we'll go visit. We'll gladly do a site inspection, a home safety inspection, just to take a look, see. And if I don't have the answer, I'll either get it for you or I'll refer you to somebody who knows.
Gary Johnson with Sedona Fire. You can contact your local jurisdiction. I'm sure they too would be very, very happy to give you some advice on decorations, lights, heaters, things like that. You guys want to help. That's the bottom line. Anybody in the fire service does. We need to take another short break. We'll come back to Countywide. Sedona Fire Marshal Gary Johnson, our guest. We'll be back after this.
Having a fire escape plan is very important to keep your family safe and together in the event of a fire. When you awake to the sound of a smoke detector and smoke in your room, don't stand straight up. Carefully roll off your bed and stay low under the smoke. If your door is shut, feel the door with the back of your hand. Slowly open the door if no heat is felt. Always stay low until you get to the outside of your home. Always have two ways out of your house and a specified meeting place somewhere outside your home. Home escape plans should be drawn up and rehearsed on a regular basis. This could be the difference between life and death if caught in a fire.
Yes, ready.
Oh, come on, Randy. Animal shelter, here I come. And no, I'm not crazy or emotionally damaged. That's a stereotype. I just belong to a total loser. I'm a good dog. So if you want a pet, adopt. And if you see Randy, tell him he dropped his wallet.
Fire can happen at any time. What would you try to save?
My family photos.
My grandfather's war memorabilia.
My dogs.
I'm firefighter Brandon Wacker with the Cotton Fire Department. A working smoke detector is your best defense in the event of a fire. Make sure you have a smoke detector in every room except your kitchen. Test them monthly and change the battery once a year. Take the time to save the things you can't replace.
It's easy to tell if you've had way too many. But what if you've had just one too many? Buzz driving is drunk driving.
Welcome back once again. Our final segment today with Sedona Fire Marshal Gary Johnson. Just talking fire safety tips. Probably I could find a lot of information online.
You can go online. The United States Fire Academy is a great source. They've got a lot of stuff. When you go to the site, there'll be a section that says public, and it'll say fire service. It'll give you a lot of good information. There's other places, the National Fire Protection Association, which is nfpa.org. You know, those are some of those areas. Just Google that; it'll give you great information. And you know, if I had to leave a couple of things for the folks to just think about, when was the last time you checked your smoke detector?
Boy.
When was the last time you changed the battery? Do you have it up there high where you're going to go? Yeah, but I got to get the ladder out. Ooh, my ladder's too short. Call your local fire department. Provide the batteries. The crews will come. They'll make that happen. Just remember, they're on call. So on the way, if they get called, they may get called off, but they'll make an appointment to make that happen. And the other thing is just think about some of the things that you do and think about some of the consequences. You know, from fireplace ashes, where do you put them? You know, what do you put them in? Some of those things. Please do not assume that I'm just going to put it in a box and I'll get to it in 20 minutes, because if you get distracted, then we may be coming and visiting.
It seems to me that when we get, I mean, as you know, I mean, you've seen hundreds of these in your career, but we get a lot of these news stories at this time of year, and as it gets colder, between now and springtime, of the fireplace ashes getting put somewhere. And I think, do a lot of people just think that after a certain amount of time, those ashes will be cool? Well, we had the fire last night, and now it's 6 this evening, it's almost a day. And I'll just, you know, discard them, use a shovel, and then what, you know, are they just going in there still too hot? Do they rekindle under certain circumstances?
Think about it.
When is your fire out?
Well, and that's what the real key is, because you have those fireplace ashes, you're now putting them, you're containing them, you're putting more ashes on. Some of those embers are still going to be hot for a long time. Then a breeze comes up, or they're too close to something that's combustible. It contains them. The next thing you know, they ignite. So something that's positive that. You know, what I really encourage everyone would be is that if you have questions, call your local fire department. You can call Sedona Fire. We'll gladly come out and do a no-cost, no-obligation safety tip. And you know, in that inspection, think about it. I'm looking at things that maybe you've seen, but remember, a different set of eyes, and it could very well make a difference.
Well, like you said about the address, I mean, we started the show with that, about how that, even at your own home, the plant outgrew, you know, so, and you just don't think about it. I think, did you put a number up there? I sure did. I put it up there 8 years ago. Well, that Oleander is 8 years older.
Yep, and it's
so
a lot
you've
taller.
got these problems. Gary, we appreciate it. We appreciate your service, of course, a lifetime in fire service. We appreciate Gary and everything that they do. And like he said, reach out, contact your local jurisdiction, Sedona Fire, and have a good, safe holiday, and don't let fire and these kinds of problems be a part of it. We thank you much. We'll join you next time for Countywide.
This has been Countywide, a special presentation of Yavapai Broadcasting News. Listen in each Tuesday and Thursday as we tackle the hot topics and talk to the decision makers across Yavapai County. That's Countywide with Brad Miller and Paul David each Tuesday and Thursday on this Yavapai Broadcasting station.